Some really beautiful tributes across the weekend at all of the Premier League grounds. Steve Sidwell and Darren Lewis join us as well. It's Pele's funeral starts today, righty, doesn't it? How will he be remembered to you?
As the greatest, he's the king. El Rey Pele. I remember I can actually remember the commentary because he's such an influence on my life. To see a black man loved and lauded, watched it in colour, my friend's house, and seeing everybody love him like they did. You know what I mean? I wanted to be a footballer, watching somebody who was so focal in my whole life in respect of wanting to play football. And seeing somebody that looks like you is seeing it, being it. And I don't think that people understand the enormity of what he done in respects of inspiration to footballers and black footballers. Honestly, I can't. I genuinely, when I heard, because we knew that it was happening and any moment now, and I genuinely, you just well up. I just started to cry because you can't thank him enough. I met him twice, and it's again, I just didn't know what to say. It was embarrassing. Jules didn't know what to say to him, but I was just pleased to know that I touched him and met him.
Yeah. You met him as well, didn't you?
Just a legend, isn't he? I mean, I think when you close your eyes and you picture that Brazilian jersey, that iconic yellow jersey, it automatically, the number 10 just automatically is on the back, and you think of the legends that's played since then, your Romarios, Ronaldos, Jairzinhos, Neymars. No one will ever come near to Pele and what he done. Obviously, only see images and videos of him escape to victory. What a film that was with the overhead kick. But it was all Pele at one stage, whether that was the garden, in the street playing football, or in the park.
The fact, Darren, that, you know, there are many of us that weren't even around when he was winning his first World Cup at the age of 17, and yet, even to this day, he's still used as the barometer for the greatest. That says it all, doesn't it, about the icon he is?
I'm always fascinated by the debate around the greatest because he won the World Cup as a boy, scored 6 goals in 4 games at the World Cup. He's exhausted by the end of it. You look at the footage, he collapses into the arms of his teammates. And one of the Sweden players in '58 says, one of the goals he scored was so good, I wanted to applaud. I mean, this was an outstanding individual talent, full stop. To have the consistency to win 3 World Cups is just off the scale. Actually, people talk about favourite moments. One of my favourite moments was a goal he didn't score. The miss against Uruguay, where the ball comes in from the left-hand side. The move starts on the halfway line. It comes in from the left. He runs past the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper doesn't know which way he's going. He runs back to get the ball, hits it diagonally across goal. Had it gone in, it would have been the goal of the century. It just misses. But it's even the move sums up the fact that he loved to have fun on the pitch. You know, you get people who want to win. I've got to win this. I've got to win that. I've got to be driven by this. Brand this, brand that. Pele just wanted to have fun, and that's why so many people love him and were inspired by him.
Yeah, what's so wonderful as well is that when everyone is remembering these moments, everyone's got a big smile on their face because that's the legacy that he leaves, isn't it, right? You haven't wiped the smile off your face all weekend either, have you? Arsenal into the new year, top of the league, 7 points clear. How are you feeling?
Feeling very, Jules, there's only 16 games, obviously, because normally it'd be 21 games up to now. But I was saying the other day, Jules, about just enjoying the moment. The players are very much, they're keyed in, they're dialed into what they're doing. It's going to be tough. You know, again, you know, Man City are probably the only team that could probably take a couple of injuries to key players and still go on to do it. Arsenal know, and Arsenal fans know, that this is a very special time because it feels good. But if there is a couple of injuries, then all of a sudden, we're somewhere else. But at the moment, we're answering all the questions. And that's all you can do. You just take the next game, as cliched as that sounds, take the next game and don't get too carried away with everything, Jules. And that's, at the moment, I'm just enjoying that. I'm enjoying that aspect of it because it's very easy to start thinking of the guys on a like a...
He came in dancing, guys. He came in dancing. Celebrating already.
It's so tough not to get carried away because when you look at it, Darren, you're looking at the teams and Sid, you look at it and you feel like all the other teams are having that kind of Leicester season vibe where they're not quite where they're meant to be, and Arsenal are kind of like taking advantage at the moment. So that's why I feel like I feel.
I mean, just off the back of that, I think a lot of people, when Jesus was injured, said, that's it, Arsenal are done.
Today, we're here to honor the legacy.
Let's not kid ourselves. That's what they said, and they'd been warning about it, and they said that's their worst nightmare because Bubba stepped up. Saka scored in both games since the World Cup. Martinelli scored in both games since the World Cup, and most significantly, Nketiah has scored in both games since the World Cup. And everybody said, "Oh, could he really do it if he's available?" He's doing it.
Yes,
why not?
And one of the players you haven't mentioned there is Martin Odegaard, who is having a remarkable season. How important has he been to everything Arsenal have been doing well?
Huge responsibility, wasn't there? The captain's armband being given to him. He's accepted that. I mean, the assist against Brighton was. There's not many players in the Premier League.
That he passed to Martinelli. That one. Yeah.
There's not many players that can do that in the Premier League. He's the one who's playing at the top of his game. Along with the others as well, they're showing a side, a personality, a character that even if they go a goal down. They don't have a little wobble. They may have a little spell, but they come back. You look at the games earlier in the season. Liverpool, when Arsenal went ahead, they get pegged back twice. They still go in and win the game. Spurs get pegged back. They still go on and win the game. So there's an element where games this year they're winning, whereas last year they wouldn't have probably seen them out.
Can I ask you? Sometimes I do go a bit rogue.
I love it. You go as rogue as you want.
I just wanted to ask the boys about his leadership because he's a very different captain to the captain he'd had. Why is his leadership so effective?
Because, like Mikel said, he's not a vocal captain. He leads by example. And you know, going to Real Madrid at 15 and then not really settling anywhere. You know what I mean? Everybody's thinking that this guy is a phenom, he's going to be amazing, and still loans and not getting to where he needed to be, and then till Arsenal took him. I think Sociedad had him for a while. It was out of us and Sociedad, and we've got to get him back. We've got to get him back simply because when he came, and they recognised the calibre of player that they had, how he fit into the squad, and make him captain. You know, it's kind of given him. It's given him that kind of authority in himself to say, yes, I'm here now. I've arrived there.
Because like you had John Terry and you had John Terry, you had Tony Adams. Yeah. They're both very different types of captain.
Vocal, very
but again,
physical.
it was a massive call and one that's worked out from Arteta to go. He must have had a thinking process of going, right, who can take this role on? You know, I could easily give it to a centre half, you know, the most common one. But if I give it to Odegaard, is that going to elevate him to really drive everyone around him? And it's worked out, and it's done wonders, because it reminds you of that environment, that culture that's at Arsenal, very much the England culture now, where everyone gets on, everyone's kind of the same age, there's a real good mix and a blend. And like I say, they're riding that wave at the moment, but there will be a wobbly patch, and that'll be the testing time.
That's the thing, he's leading by example, the way he's playing. I think he's easily the informed, creative player in the league at the moment. And like you rightly mentioned, you know, Eddie Nketiah is under a lot of pressure. You know, people are thinking, well, is he going to do it? They just signed a new deal the other day. Everybody's talking about how much he's supposedly getting. And it's not even, it's irrelevant what he's getting, because Mikel knows that he could come in and do it. And that's why, after the game the other day, Mikel gave him such a lovely, long hug, because he's happy for him. Yeah. He's happy that he's come in and he's done that. And there's still maybe a chance that Arsenal may try and sign somebody. But he knows that he's needed. He's come in and he's done it. Saka's done it. Partey, Odegaard, those are the ones. If Partey, Odegaard and Saka stay fit, which is going to be very tough, then I think Arsenal got a very good chance of winning the league.
Do you think that with Eddie Nketiah, is he, because like you look at a profile, and is he like the name? Is he the big superstar name that can really spearhead every season for Arsenal? I mean, he's only young and he's knocking on the door and he's scoring the goals and he deserves to start, but then you've got the likes of United to Chelsea's. I'm sure Chelsea haven't got a striker, but he doesn't. Do you know what I mean? He's young to getting a chance, but is he the one to really be at the profile up top? You've
got to realise that now, this moment, what he's in now, where Arsenal's main striker's out, he's the guy they've signed, he's been there since he's 14, you know, he's a goal scorer at all the levels, under 21 level, now we've seen him scoring cup, now he's come on the stage, and he's actually scoring. So this is his time to build that profile, to be that guy. Because then what people will see is that, well, when he came in, he was under pressure and he'd done it. Now people say, I want to take him as my main guy then. If Arsenal, because he's now proving that he can deal with that, Jules. He can deal with the fact that, I could go in and I can be the main man. His link-up play's been good. He sniffs around the box, which is what he does well. And he's scoring the goals.
What I like about him as well, though, is that when he was answering to those critics, he said, you know, I don't want to be what Jesus is. No. I'm my own person. I'm my own player. And he's gone and proved that in the couple of matches that he's started in for Arsenal already. Looking at the Brighton game from the weekend, Brighty, it was seen as a potential banana skin because Brighton came into that match off the back of a really comfortable victory against Southampton on Boxing Day. And there were a couple of moments in the game where Brighton were getting momentum.
Yeah.
At any point, were you worried?
Yeah, I was a little bit worried, but the way we started the game, again, we didn't panic. You know, we started the game how you wanted to. We on the front foot, they made a mistake, we punished them, and then all of a sudden we're in control of the game. And then you score again. And then what you want to see from the team is a maturity where you're not taking liberties. You're playing the game how you're meant to play your game. And I thought they saw it out very well. Until the second half, you knew that Brighton were going to do something else. Yes, they had a couple of key players missing, McAllister's missing, Caseido's missing, your top players missing. But at the same time, they were a problem to go there, especially Arsenal going there, Jules, knowing that City have dropped points and Newcastle dropped points. So what you wanted to see was a management of the game. And I think there was a couple of instances in the second half where they weren't as tight. And I think that we saw that they scored the goal and they had another chance where they scored. Then they had one disallowed just by off. And those are the things that Arsenal have to now look at, okay, we need to manage the game from here. Yeah. You know, and those are the things that, like, can I close down quicker to make sure we stop that pass into our back line? Because then, unfortunately, William Saliba got the wrong side of his lane, he scored. But I wasn't worried too much because going into the game and the way they started, they were very comfortable. It's mainly now what I'd be more worried about is how they see it out, because you're going to have to see out games.
Yeah.
I think there's a really good parallel between Arsenal this season and last season in terms of, we talked at the start of the campaign about how they were winning games against teams they would slip up against, or would have slipped up against last season. Now, if you look at last season, they had games in hand on the other teams in the hunt for the Champions League. And there were occasions where they couldn't win those games. The pressure got to them. But this time around, they've got opportunities to build where other teams behind them drop points. 4 of the top 8 drop points this weekend, and they keep taking their chances. They've only lost once all season. They've only drawn once all season. All of the other games have been win. It's that relentlessness and that ability to take advantage of the other team's mistakes that it could well prove decisive.
The big question now is, coming to January, the transfer window. You know, I'm sure they're looking at bringing players in that's going to fit the mould, fit what Mikel Arteta's building, especially within the dressing room, and someone's not going to come into the shop. But even as a player in that dressing room, you've got to be thinking, come on, let's see. Even if it's in your position, you've got to be thinking, come on, let's see what we've got.
I'm intrigued to know with that, though, when there's so much unity in a team already, 7 points clear at the top, everyone seems to be singing off the same hymn sheet. Can it sometimes ruffle a few feathers if a new player comes in? No,
Jules, because I think that with Arsenal, they want that. They want it simply because they know it's going to make the group better. Then they're going to progress. Because Arsenal were trying to finish in the top 4. That's what the mantra was this season. That's what they wanted to do. Finish in the top 4, get back in Champions League, and attract the kind of players that's going to take you to the next level, which is to win the Premier League. They're way ahead of schedule at the moment. But I can't go too excited simply because it's 16 games. But what you want, Jules, is for Arsenal to be buying a player that comes into the squad, that is going to make that team better. They need that because for them to continue to go on.
Right, is there a player out there that's like that now?
I think that
if someone said, look, you can have that player tomorrow, you'd say, yeah, we'll take him.
Yeah, let me see. Gakpo's gone. Gakpo's gone because you look at him and you think to yourself, yeah, but I think like Mudryk, if they can get him, I think that's the kind of signing that you can get in now. Obviously, there's still midfield players. You look at like the midfield players around, like obviously Tchouaméni, you know, that kind of player. You can't get him now. He's obviously 100 million at Real Madrid, but you know, just off the top of my head, no. But like Mudryk, a striker, that's what they'll need now. And I think Arsenal will at some stage need to make sure that they can cover in the midfield and centre half. And that's what them playing well, going to that level, will bring them. They'll bring them that kind of player that wants to come to a club like Arsenal with a great project and maybe kick on with good young players.
So it's a 7-point gap at the top of the table now, and the games are coming thick and fast. Tomorrow, Arsenal host Newcastle. This is another tough game. Another team who you could argue are overachieving this season. How do you think Arsenal will approach this one?
Like every other game they've gone, on the front foot, try and win the game in the first half. I think that is their kind of tactic at the moment. You see how many early goals they're scoring and getting on the score sheet with. And And I think it'd be a game where they don't lose. That'd be their focus. We get out, we come off the traps, we play on the front foot, but whatever happens.
The last time I had to cancel my subscriptions, it took me 2 hours. Now, I use Rocket Money.
In this game, we don't lose. That's the mentality I think that Arteta's really installing into it. Not just these back. I think it'd be a game where they don't lose. That'd be their focus. We get out, we come off the traps, we play on the front foot, but whatever happens in this game, we don't lose. That's the mentality I think that Arteta's really installing into it. Not just his back line, everyone in that whole starting 11, players that are on the bench are the ones that are going to be playing. They don't want to lose.
Are Newcastle a team that Arsenal fans fear?
I think you have to fear them because I'm watching Leeds play them in the other day and listening to Jesse Marsh's interview afterwards. They went there and they were fearing Newcastle. They played 5 at the back. They were just trying to stop Newcastle and they just wanted to get a point. I think that says a lot about Newcastle because they respect them. Because if you don't do something like that, then Newcastle will open you up. I feel that we've got enough offensively for Newcastle to be afraid and vice versa. Yeah. You know, they're playing very, very well. And if you go there with anything other than the attitude of going to try and beat them, then, you know, I'll go with Steve. You have to try and beat them, but the main thing is you don't lose the game. Yeah. That's what Arsenal have to do now because we're going to have to play top teams, City. And if they do win those, then obviously the points, it's down to 1 point. So you have to go into that City game thinking, well, if we draw that game, we have to be winning these games. That's the main thing.
It's a tough one because Newcastle have got the best defensive record in the Premier League. They've only conceded 11 goals so far this season. They've built on really good, solid foundations. Even though none of the back line, you would maybe Botman, it would get it into a top side, if you like. But they've put together that defence really well. Pope as well as the last line of defence. Arsenal got the second highest they are the second highest scorers in the Premier League. So it's almost like the irresistible force against your immovable objects. Yeah. And so who's going to crack first? And I think...
0-0.
Well, in theory, yes. In theory, yes, because I think they've only conceded 4 times in the last 11 games. But of the 2 teams, Arsenal got the greater capability to score. Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, Nketiah. All of those players, a party, if you like, who can arrive late. Exactly. I think Newcastle have fewer players who can break the deadlock, even though they are defensively strong. And that's why I would take them.
And again, at the moment, it just seems like everyone loves playing there. The fans are really on song. They're really getting behind. I've worked a couple of times this season. You can sense such a difference in the atmosphere at home games at Arsenal this season, more than any other season before. And the players, they look like they're just, they're going out there and they're exuding all of that energy as well when they're taking it to players. So that's a huge factor for them this season.
How much better is it at the Emirates now than it was a year ago, Righty?
It's magnificent now, simply because Mikel, not only has he moved people out of the team, brought people into the team, but he knew that there was something missing between the fans and the players and the management. And you notice how quiet it's gone with the owners and everything. All the noise has stopped because now they've got the Ashburton army that's just behind the clock end there. And there's a load of young fans who are getting behind the team and they're constantly singing. And it's something that Mikel always, when you listen to his interviews, he's always mentioned how important the fans are. And he's included the fans, and they feel that now. And like you listen to the players when they're talking. I remember when William Saliba, when he scored the own goal there, the fans just started to sing his name in unison. And it just rose, everybody rose, and bam, they ended up going and scoring at the other end. And it's kind of, it's so important now, Jules. That if we're not hearing it now, you're feeling like, oh, the fans are not involved. We need them to get involved. It's magnificent for Arsenal.
I think that documentary is the best thing Arsenal have done for the last probably 10, 15 years. Because I think it gave fans an insight. You're right to talk about the fans. They understand what the club are doing now because they got that insight into it. And all the big decisions that have been made, he's been vindicated. You know, taking the captaincy away, moving out some of the older players who maybe were resting on their laurels a little bit, maybe felt that they'd done it and that the club owed them rather than the other way around, bringing in younger, hungry players. All of those decisions have been vindicated. And when you look at the fact that the players that they've moved out haven't exactly gone on to set the world alight at other clubs, whereas the younger players that they've brought through have got the club to where they are, the fans understand it now. There's real context to what Arsenal are doing, and that's why there is that synergy, if you like, between the fans and the club.